that conversation with the hundreds of other people who are not here forward as well. So please, when you tweet, just use the hashtag AHI. I've run out of nonsense to talk, but the panel is ready. So I was really just killing time. The last time I saw Flip Base, we were both young miners. So I mean, that's a long time ago. I was nog by die mynwerkers unie en hy het my grys hare gegee. Okay, so are we settled down? I'm going to hand over to our panel leader. Theo needs no introduction. Bye, dankie.
Thanks. Thank you, Bernard. When I listened to the previous conversation and the conversation we're going to now enter into, it always makes me think about the young currency trader who was sitting on the Cape Town on the beach. And he was thinking about his next strategy and where all the markets are going. And all of a sudden he bumped into a genie. And he couldn't believe his luck. And the genie said to him, you know what, you've got I'll give you a wish, one wish. And he thinks a while and he said, yeah, perhaps what from here in Cape Town, can you not give me a highway all the way to Australia? A highway so I can get into my car and I can stop every night at a nice spot, fish a bit, and drive through to Australia. And the genie said, yes, you know what, that's a long distance and there's a lot of pylons. What about another wish? He said, well, yeah, another wish. Can you tell me where the rand will trade at the end of the year? And Genie looked at him and said, that highway, how many lanes are we talking about? So South Africa is in a very difficult, volatile environment. Business, from a business point, from a social, economic point. This discussion will be in English and Afrikaans. We will mix the languages as we carry on. But I'm going to first start with a few opening comments, and I'm going to ask Flip Base, which you all well know, and I believe all the names are on the screen. Flip, if you look at where we are currently, economically, from a social perspective, your comments. What will your synopsis be?
Like is nou selfbeskierig wat ek gaan sê. But I think the big difference, if you look at, say for example, 30 years ago, the whole issue was a new order, new dispensation. And the question now is, the issue now is no order. The previous one was new order, the issue now is no order, energy. So where 30 years ago, many people were concerned about the possibility of a revolution. Now, I think the big concern is energy. And that is because of the leadership problem in the country. It's the leierskap wat kiem, wat deursyfer na die staatsdiens en na die belangrikste instellings toe. So ons kyk na die universiteite, die departement, die minister, dit lyk nie of die regering 'n plan het nie, dit lyk nie of die departemente plan het nie, the universities are on the they are in a very difficult situation. You know, the police are in a difficult situation. They get the backing from their political leaders if there's a unfortunate incident at the universities. En dan hierdie magsvakuum wat ook aangehelp word deur die feit dat die ANC swakker in die verkiesing gedoen het. Dis nie vir my net 'n goeie nuus dat die ANC swakker in die verkiesing gedoen het nie. Want dit lei tot 'n magsvakuum wat lei tot verhoogde politieke mededinging, wat lei daartoe dat die EFF en ander groepe nou meeding met die SASCO's en so aan wat die universiteite deels onstabiel maak, net soos mededinging byvoorbeeld in die vakbondwese sê nou maar tussen NAM en AMKU, sleg is vir arbeidsverhoudinge en sleg is vir die ekonomie. So sien ek hierdie verskerpte mededinging weet as 'n probleem. So universiteite moet nou, dis amper soos in die wêreldoorlog waar Duitsland en Frankryk met mekaar geveg het op België se grondgebied, weet. Jy kry hierdie eksterne probleme op universiteitsvlak wat nou oorspoel en dit die geveg is op die kampusse en die probleem kan nie op die kampusse opgelos word nie. Net soos probleme in die samelewing, in die gemeenskap, nie by 'n maatskappy se onderhandelingstafel opgelos kan word.
Len, ek wil net by jou stil staan vir 'n oomblik. Ons praat baie oor die groter prentjie, oor die vakuum in leierskap, maar baie Suid-Afrikaners en baie van die lede the activity is on the municipal level. The activity is with the local municipality and the basic elements of service delivery. How does one connect those dots?
Ek gaan nou daaroor praat met meneer Swanepoel hierso vir Flip voorstel, hy vertel hoe oud is hulle. Flip sê vir my so oud, hy kan nog onthou wanneer die Springbokke die All Blacks gewen het. I was listening to Prince saying that we shouldn't talk to government before 2019. There aren't only one government in South Africa. We've got one central government with about 38 ministers. You've got 9 provinces, and you've got more than 250 municipalities. Now, those councils here, those sakelkamers that are here, they are all from a specific local municipality, whether it's Newcastle or Piketberg. And what I would promote is that the sakelkamers engage in dialogue with their local municipalities. It's essential. Normally, the municipality within a local area of jurisdiction is the biggest business. It is the one that advertises for tenders. It is the one that allocates contracts, etc. Last night, we listened to Solly, the new mayor of Tshwane. He has already said that they're going to open up the tender process. At the bid adjudication committee meeting, where the tenders are adjudicated, it will be open for anybody to come and see what happens there. There's no reason why all 250 municipalities in South Africa can't do that. You can go back to Newcastle and say to your mayor, I've been to Pretoria. The new DA mayor there, the new broom, the nuwe besem wat skoonvee, has said that he's opening up his tender process. Why aren't you doing the same? We're asking you, we're demanding that you do the same. Open up your tender process so that we can see what's going on there, so that when the tenders are evaluated and adjudicated, we are there as witnesses to see what's happening. Then, to a large extent, corruption will be ended.
Flip, before I get to you, Christo, should business be more vocal?
Ja, dit is hierso waar ek een groot kritiek op die sakesektor in die algemeen wil lig. En dit is dat die sakesektor sien ek nie veg die battle of ideas nie. En as ek vir die een boek kan aanbeveel om vir jouself daarmee te bemagtig, lees bietjie Anne Bernstein se Case for Business in Developing Economies. Dis die ongelooflikste rol wat die sakesektor speel, maar soos wat as ek reg is meneer Posa gesê het, word die sakesektor baie keer aanvaar as the enemy of the state. So my vraag is altyd, die vrymarkstelsel die Koue Oorlog gewen. Hoekom is ons op verdediging in Suid-Afrika? So I want to plea with the business sector to become engaged in the battle of ideas. En daar sekere goed wat ek verstaan, wat sensitief is, wat nie self kan aanvat nie, maar dan is die Handelsinstituut die mondstuk, dan is die Center for Development and Enterprise die mondstuk, the Free Market Foundation, the Institute of Race Relations, etc. So, maar ons moet die vrymarkstelsel, iemand het gesê, dis maklik om te verstaan, maar dis moeilik om lief te hê. So ons moet asseblief betrokke raak in the battle of ideas to promote the ideas all our businesses depend on.
Christo, jou opmerking oor die huidige situasie?
I can now speak from a business perspective as well as an agricultural perspective. And in all of our engagement with government, with the unions, and even with organized agriculture and organized business, what you find is that there's a lack of a shared vision, also a lack of a shared ideological framework. And there's an old saying, African proverb that says, if the elephants fight, the grass gets destroyed. And this is exactly what is happening in South Africa. We've got 3 unintended consequences due to the new dispensation. One, we have bureaucratized the entire labor movement. So all that they can talk about is the rights and labor rights, and we frame that within a labor policy. And it makes it a very, very inflexible engagement because people are adamant, dis die dinge wat ons wil hê moet gebeur. The second other big problem that we have is we've got a highly monopolized business environment. A few listed JSE companies that dictate the entire economic pathway for South Africa. waar laat dit hierdie klomp klein besighede in die proses? So daar's nie demokrasie binne die arbeidsomgewing nie, daar's ook nie demokrasie binne die besigheidsomgewing nie. Nou klink dit baie kontroversieel wat ek sê. And then also you've got a state that is hell-bent on a specific ideological perspective, and there's no flexibility in that.
I'm going to get to flip on that, but I think something that we forget is that the National Development Plan wants us to grow at 5%. Now that is a number, but think about the following. 5% means the size of your economy will double every 14 years. Think about that. The size of the cake, the size of the output will double every 14 years. At 1%, it will double every 70 years. That's where we are. So if we grow it between 0.5% and 1%, we're going to take 70 to 100 years to double this cake. China, growth came out yesterday, 6.7%. China's economy would have doubled from 2010 to 2020. The cake would have doubled. At 6.5% to 6.7%, they will double roughly every 10 or 11 years. Flip, the point was made that we've got a very rigid structure in terms of labor, government, and business. Your remarks, and I want you to take one step back. What is the synopsis and what should be addressed and how can it be addressed?
Well, I very strongly believe in a free market system. I believe that the more regulation there are, the bigger the state, the role of the state, the weaker the economy. Vir my is die rol van die staat is een van daai debatte wat ons in Suid-Afrika moet voer. Daar's 'n siening in die land wat miskien deur miljoene mense gedeel word, dat die rol van die staat is die van die broodwinner. My siening is dat die rol van die staat is die van die huishoudster. En ek dink ons sal moet baie meer praat in Suid-Afrika daaroor. En dit bring my weer eens by wat Dr. van Sail-Slabbert gesê het, is dat die politiek skep verwagtinge waaraan die ekonomie nie aan kan voldoen. En ek dink die grootste vraag wat ons gaan hê in die toekoms as die ekonomie verder verswak en ons politieke ekonomie verder verswak, is die vraag, kan die demokrasie en die vrymarkstelsel saam voortbestaan in so 'n situasie?
Waar pas arbeid en vakbonde? En miskien net so 'n bietjie van 'n idee, die denkrigtings binne in die vakbondwese. Waar staan dit in hierdie prentjie?
Ek dink dit staan in die verlede. Wat ons hierso mee sit, is dat ons sit met mense wat met ideologieë vorendag kom, wat ontstaan het in die vroeë era van die nywerheidsekonomie. Ons sit nou in 'n inligtingsekonomie en ons sit met 'n totaal uitgediende ideologie van 'n klassestryd wat nog in baie gevalle geveg word. I think it is important that we engage with that kind of stakeholders also on the level of the battle of ideas, and to convince people to explain the market economy to people, to explain to people even if it is not there's nie volmaakte stelsel, but it is the only system that can create enough wealth to uplift people out of poverty, to explain to people the real life experiments, die werklikheidsreekse, politieke en ekonomiese werklikheidsreekse of East Germany and West Germany, of North Korea and South Korea, of China and Taiwan before China started to liberalize its economy. So I think we need to illustrate that, we need to explain it, but I can tell you that it is unfortunately the fact that an important part of labor are still busy to fight the battles of yesterday.
And those differences, East Germany, West Germany, North Korea, South Korea, and you can even add...
It is common sense. As jy kyk wat in Amerika gebeur, hoeveel jong mense vir Bernie Sanders ondersteun.
Ja.
Want die jong mense weet nie meer van daai era nie. Ons moet weer vir hulle vertel wat Churchill gesê het. Jy weet, as jy 20 is en jy is nie 'n sosialis nie, het jy nie 'n hart nie. As jy 30 is en jy is nog steeds 'n sosialis, jy het nie 'n kop nie. Maar ek dink net ons moet nie dit onderskat. Mense aanvaar. En hier sit vir my verskriklik belangrik dat die rolmodelle, the black business people must also come to the party. And we need that kind of role models to people. Soos Dawie Rood sê, ons het nie te veel arme mense in Suid-Afrika nie, ons het te min ryk mense in Suid-Afrika. En ek dink dit is die uitdaging.
Die idees van die markplein, or the battle of ideas. If you, Christo, if you look at the concept of engaging, the concept of engaging with all people around all spectrums, to what extent is there a trust deficit, and how can that be addressed?
I think the trust deficit is, soos hulle mooi Afrikaans sê, oorkombaar. And it starts with engagement. In AgriSA, together with the unions, together with departmental officials, we've been now busy for 5 weeks to talk about how do we take agriculture forward. Because agriculture is the basis of everything. If you don't have agriculture, there will not be any food on the table. So, 'n belangrike gesprek vir ons is wat is tekortkominge in hierdie hele in die landbouomgewing. And the first thing that we've identified is that we want agriculture to become a major job creator, a major export agency for South Africa. But there's no policy for commercial agriculture. We want to put food on the table via a whole millions of small-scale farmers. And nowhere in the world, does that type of approach work. So we are now trying to convince government about the role of commercial agriculture, but also we are also busy influencing commercial agriculture, say, but you have a responsibility for your workers and for your local environment. Because you cannot have a situation, and this is die tragedie van Suid-Afrika. We've got a situation where 20% of entrepreneurs, whether they in a monopolized environment or within a small scale or a medium-sized business environment, these people are responsible for 80% of the jobs and for 80% of whatever needs to be put on the market. And that is unsustainable. So ons beweeg nou in 'n rigting waar ons sê, maar kom ons kyk na hoe ons mense se entrepreneuriese talente kan losmaak. Hoe skep ons 'n geleentheid vir die klein ouetjie om iets te begin? Een van die voorstelle wat ons nou op die tafel sit is for commercial farmers to say, listen, let's make land on a small scale available for your farm workers. Farm workers are caught up in a dependency relationship. And what we find is, at the end of the month, they go to town, en die bietjie geld wat hulle het, spandeer hulle op drank en val maar terug in daai afhanklikheidsgroef. Dis nie gesond vir enige samelewing nie. How then do you turn your farm workers, and especially those with entrepreneurial abilities, into small-scale farmers that can produce something on a piece of land, take that to the nearest local market and start selling and start trading. Ons hele omgewing is gevang in een groot verbruikerskultuur. If you look at all the figures that have been released lately, is that our consumer sectors and our financial sectors are growing at a rapid pace, while our production sectors remain stagnant. En dit sê vir ons dat jy sit aan die einde van die dag met afhanklikheid van invoere van buite, en jy sit later met ander probleme binnelands, ons sit met groot werkloosheid, ons sit met ander sosio-maatskaplike probleme. So we need to address the issue of production, we need to address the issue of small-scale business development, we need to address the issue of job creation, and if we can address those 3 or 4 issues that are fundamental for people development, I think we can take the country forward.
We have a question here that I'm going to ask everybody to answer because it's a difficult question. It has to do with BEE, Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment, BBBEE. Volkswagen South Africa warned that broad-based black economic empowerment will put off foreign investors. Now they're just a level 8 contributor. The question here is, if we look at broad-based black economic empowerment, and one of the success stories in South Africa is the motor manufacturing sector. Yes, one might argue that if you look at the incentives, it is not perhaps as successful as some people would say, but let's leave it at that. Part of growth and keeping a growing economy is investment, both local and foreign investment. Where does broad-based black economic empowerment fit into this picture? Perhaps Flip, your view?
Kyk, I'm very critical about that because I believe a rising tide raises all ships. If you look at Malaysia, which is only comparable country in terms of, for example, affirmative action, because it was also a majority that's involved there. It is not only exercise to protect or a system to protect minorities like in the US and so on. What happened there, if the economy is growing, slower than I think 3%, I can't remember exactly, then they stop with the policy and they first focus to grow the economy again. So I believe in input-based measures. I believe it is very important to give people more opportunities, black people more opportunities, to give them more training, to have extra programs and so on the input side. But I believe in the output side, that amounts in the end to a kind of quota system or another. So I believe it is much better to grow the economy, and it will be, because black people are in the majority, it will be to the benefit of everyone. But in principle, to me, that the more regulations, the more difficult you make it for the economy to grow, the more difficult it is for investors and so on. So I believe in economic freedom.
So just, am I right, and Len, ek gaan jou opinie vra as. So basically, in a system like Malaysia, there's almost a speed limit. Once you reach a speed limit, you can look at social structures to make sure it gets distributed equally. But first, get to that specific speed limit. On the municipal level, what's your experience?
Let's be very practical. It works in the tender system. If the tender is below 1 million, you can get 20 points for BEE and 80 points for price. If it's more, then it is 10 points for BEE and 90 for price. But how the 10 is made up is the important thing. And what often now happens is that one specific BEE firm then gets the tender, but very often they are not competent to execute the tender, and it creates difficulties. And it seems to me, if I listen carefully to what government is saying, that they're going to move away from that system to a compulsory subcontracting system, which would mean that as a white person, I could win the contract, but in my tender, I would have to indicate that I am going to make use of certain subcontractors, which makes up the points then, which would mean you are compelled to have cooperation, which perhaps would be a better system, because then you will have both a white entrepreneur and a BEE entrepreneur working together, and maybe it will be of a bigger success.
The key there is to try to get collaboration. Again, it's a regulated enterprise, which we now listen. But the key would be to get better.
Well, it seems to be from the announcements made of moving away to this compulsory subcontracting system. In other words, jy word verplig om 'n subkontrakteur aan te stel wat wel aan die BEE standaarde voldoen, en dan kry jy punte daarvoor. Dit wil vir my lyk asof die regering dus nou sê, ek gaan julle nou forceer om saam te werk. Another difficulty we have with the SMMEs, the small and medium enterprises, especially the very small ones. There are some of these enterprises, they have a bakkie and a few employees that work for them. If they're not paid every Friday, they cannot work on Monday. It's as simple as that. But the municipality is not geared to pay them every Friday. You have to overcome that difficulty. The very small black enterprise with 1 bakkie and 3 employees, he has to be paid Friday. Otherwise, on Saturday you can't eat, and on Monday you can't work. It's practicalities like that that has to be overcome if you want to make success of it.
Christo, is net,
net baie vinnig. You see, our biggest problem is not BEE. Our biggest problem is the lack of opportunities to be exploited. We in South Africa have an over-reliance on primary economic activities. In other words, we have big companies extracting commodities, and that commodity leaves the country in raw form, and it's then processed outside of the country. What we need to do is, we need to create very, very comprehensive industrial policy, a sort of A to Z. Okay, here's the big farmer, he's producing oranges. But what value can you extract from that primary product? And that's where you can create a whole lot of small-scale BEE enterprises. Right, there's someone that can go fetch some of the oranges and turn it into orange juice. There's somebody else that can dry the orange peels and perhaps create some product for the market that can help you to grow your hair back. En so kan jy 'n hele klomp van hierdie goed gaan skep. But we need to have an incentivized system. At this point in time, we want to punish people. And we rather use the stick instead of the carrot approach. Daar's legio geleenthede om hierdie land se ekonomie met al ons wonderlike hulpbronne na 'n volgende vlak toe te neem.
The question I have here is, how does South Africa go forward if we have the problems at universities? But there's a second question, how do you make sure the youth, and your advice to the youth to get the necessary skills? We are in an environment where things are changing, universities seems to be a problem. Where does that leave our young people?
Kyk, Milton Friedman het gesê, die beste belegging wat jy kan maak met die hoogste opbrengs is in die opleiding van mense. En die tragedie vir my is, especially the public education system, 80% schools dysfunctional, young learners enters university without the necessary capabilities to succeed. Set in sense to set him up for failure. So voor ons nie die skoolstelsel reg kry nie, en hierso sien ek daarom vir my ook 'n baie positiewe neiging en ook 'n geleentheid vir die sakesektor met die opkoms van privaat skole wat ook goedkoop privaat skole wat eintlik in die townships en in ander gebiede ook vir die arm kinders weer toeganklik is. So waar die staatssektor verswak, is dit nie net negatief nie. Natuurlik is dit jammer want ons belastinggeld is daar. Maar mens moet ook kyk na geleenthede wat dit skep vir die sakesektor. So net soos ons kyk hoe medies geprivatiseer is, net soos ons kyk hoe sekuriteit geprivatiseer is, dink ek staan ons aan die begin van die privatisering van die skool en die universiteitssektor.
Jy sluit universiteite ook aan. Ek sien PSG with their results, they said that they've got 1.7 billion on the balance sheet looking at the tertiary.
Yeah, if you look at other countries, I think in the US more than 70% universities, private university, ek meen Harvard is self weer privaat. If you look at Japan, about also more than 70%. If you look at Africa, what happened is that Africa with our universities have already happened other places in Africa, and the private universities is growing so fast. It will ek dink binne 5 jaar gaan die staatsuniversiteite verby in die hele kontinent van Afrika, en ek dink dit is ook goeie nuus.
Just a question about ideology and the fact that how things have changed. The principle of ideology. We all in business, most of us is in business, that means we would like to drive a nice Mercedes-Benz car, but then we support Che Guevara when we talk about ideology. And if I look at the current cabinet, I think some of the thought leaders are from the Communist Party, for lack of a better word. Where does that leave us in terms of, from a business point of view, making sense of where we are? Perhaps your side, Christo.
Yeah, I think even within the agricultural sector, we also have our ideological differences. You've got a large number of what we would call mega farmers, and they are not part of organized agriculture. They believe they are sort of very elitist group. They operate on their own, and we try to establish contact with them. But they are so powerful, they can easily phone the president and say, listen, we will drop off a Bosmara cow, and then we can talk. Within organized agriculture, we sit with your large, medium-sized, and even your small-scale commercial farmer. Their needs are completely different. For example, many of them are now facing a massive bankruptcy due to flooding of the market we are importing poultry, we are importing milk, 5 million liters of milk that was landed. The pork guys are complaining because we are getting a lot of pork now from the USA. So they face very, very real challenges. So we must address it. And then you've got your 200,000 mostly subsistence farmers. They aspire to get access to land. And most of them are very good farmers, but government only provides them with a 5-year lease. Now you tell me, if you want to be a successful farmer, how can you get a 5-year lease? So within our own business environment, there are very, very diverse groups, diverse interests. And if you can recall, during the previous dispensation, lots of our farmers operated within co-ops. And those co-ops now are businesses in their own right. And what has happened is that many of our farmers are now saying, but these businesses are no longer representing our interests because the major shareholder is an American company. And
American insurance company.
Yes. And now farmers are saying, listen, we must go back to the old socialist idea of a co-op. And it's even becoming more confusing. But at the end of the day, it's about making sure that we protect the interest of our own business people, not via, protectionist measures or all kinds of new or ideological perspectives, but we need to become much more strategic. The answer lies in how do we then make sure that we are so strategic that we can counter the competition that comes from overseas.
If you talk about South African economy and the social environment, we've got 5.7 million people unemployed. 5.7 million people. They are people that are looking for jobs that don't exist. Then we can add another 2.5 million people who has become, Dr. Pauza used the word gatvol, has just become gatvol of looking for a job. So if you add those two, there's 8.2 odd million South Africans of working age who would like to work, who the system is not working for. Now the problem is, if you have a university degree, your chance of being part of the unemployed is low. It's a small percentage. If you come from a privileged background, your chance is small to be in that unemployment bracket. So if we see that as the challenge of how do we transform that economy to give more people, more than less than 8.2 million people on the unemployment bandwagon, on grants. Flip, part of that is creating opportunities, part of it is transforming the wealth of the economy, part of it is bringing more people into the mainstream. How do we approach that problem?
It is very difficult. The American economist Galbraith has said that it is better to be exploited than not to be exploited. By that I mean, rather give a person, or even if you have got an entry-level job. Thomas Sowell, the economists, have said that if you comply with 3 rules in the US, the chances of being poor is less than 1%. Now, the first rule is, complete your school, and I think you assume at a good school. Second one is get a job, even if it is under the minimum pay and so on, get a job and keep your job and do your work. And the third one is perhaps is very interesting, and that is, marry and stay married. Because you get, in many countries, the feminization of poverty. In South Africa also, I think that is a very big problem. If you look at the Institute of Race Relations Statistics, only 28% of black children grow up in a family. So it is very important, the structure of the family in South Africa is very important. Secondly, if you look at, Adam Smith said that the biggest, the strongest power for development in the world is the will in each individual to improve his or her own circumstances. But we must free that people, we must free the entrepreneurs to create jobs, to grow the economy, because you can't create jobs. I mean, as jy 'n groot gat vat, of 'n groot klomp mense vat, en gee vir hulle elkeen 'n graf en sê grou 'n gat, en hulle grou die gat en sit klaar, dat moet hom weer toegooi, dan het jy werk geskep. But there was no value created. So the only way you can create jobs is to, support entrepreneurs, like Christo said, with incentives and so on. But we need to free the entrepreneurs in order to create jobs. Otherwise, there's no solution, because the state can't create jobs. As jy kyk na Prof. Janie Rousseau van Wits het so 2-3 jaar terug het hy gesê dat gewaarsku teen Suid-Afrika se fiscal cliff. Hy het gesê dat binne 12 jaar gaan net die social grants en staatsdiens salarisse gaan die hele begroting verteer. Nou het dit sedertdien hersien, want daar is verbeterings aangebring, maar dis nie, die probleem is nog nie verby nie. The fiscal cliff is still looming for South Africa. Maar ek net laastens sê dat 'n mens moet nie so negatief teenoor die regerende politici wees nie. Ek dink daar's jy weet Kissinger het gesê dit is net die 90% wat die 10% 'n slegte naam gee.
Len, op plaaslike vlak.
Ek wil net iets aanhaak by wat Christo gesê het van the farmers are giving a 5 years lease. En ek wil hê meneer Poza moet dit hoor. Met grondhervorming waar dan nou van wit boere grond gekoop onteien word. Waar dink jy gaan daai grond heen? Die grootste gedeelte van daai grond is steeds in staatsbesit onder die minister van Streek en Grondsake. Dan moet daai begunstigdes, die boere wat nou moet voordeel kry, moet nou daar gaan daai grond huur. Hy kan nie nou daai grond gebruik om 'n verband te kry nie. Dis nie sy grond, hy huur dit. Dis staatsgrond. En jy moet sien hoe lyk daai huurkontrakte. Ek het nou al 'n paar kliënte gehad, swart kliënte wat ek daar moet probeer help. Dis nag. Dan moet iets aan gedoen word om daardie grond wat verkry is ten behoewe van swart boere beter te benut sodat daai swart boere entrepreneurs kan word met ons hulp. Tans is hulle huurders van staatsgrond en daai kontrak lyk soos hy deur die staatsburger opgetrek is. Dit is 'n leemte wat bestaan dat daardie mense nie regtig entrepreneurs kan word as 5 jaar huurders op staatsgrond nie. Ek hoop u sal daarna kyk.
Are you locked out of the financial system without private property?
Yes and no. In the event where people have, for example, a 30-year or 90-year, 99-year lease on land, especially in communal areas, that makes it easy for them to then engage with a bank and even with a land bank. Remember, if you look at all of these policies, we've got some of the most ambitious schemes. Land Bank, the DTI, all of them have massive, massive support systems in place to assist entrepreneurs. Within AHI, we started about 5 years back with a massive entrepreneur development program. Dr. Willie is besig om George om 'n hele township te omskep in 'n groot, daar's Hetien in Botawil en so kan ek aangaan. Within AgriSA, you've got Grain SA that has developed over 22,000 small-scale black farmers. Wool South Africa have developed approximately 5,000 small-scale farmers. So the private sector, I tell you, the private sector plays a major, but very unappreciated role in terms of the development of people, not just only in terms of other skills, but specifically entrepreneurial skills. Maar wat is ons grootste probleem? Is die staat. The measures that the state put into, or let me rather say, they are very good plans, but when it must be rolled out in practice, dan sit jy met 'n massiewe probleem. The assistance for black farmers are now divided up into 4 to 5 state departments. It's thinly spread. Hierdie ou kry so 'n bietjie geld en daai kry 'n bietjie geld, die ou wat nou wil begin ploeg. Jy weet, gaan eers daai geld volgende jaar Februarie maand kry. Dan is die ploegseisoen verby. So is 'n hele gemors. We are trying to bring all of those things now into one mechanism, onto one platform, so that we have a very targeted approach. The black entrepreneurs are there. They are very successful. The black farmers are there, and now I use black in a very generic term, but they do not get the required support from the state and a very targeted support. At this point in time, it's the private sector that fulfills that role. Maar ons kan dit ook nie doen sonder die hulp van die staat. We need a partnership.
We've got about 18 minutes left. So what I first just this question, this crisis we have in the education crisis, and let's say you shouldn't waste a good crisis as a point of departure, but more importantly, how will this crisis change South Africa going forward? Are we going to see permanent changes, or how will history view the education crisis?
Wel, ek dink Winston Churchill sou gesê het dat omdat ons 'n geveg probeer vermy het in 2016, gaan ons 'n oorlog kry in 2017. En wat ek daardeur bedoel is hoe ongelukkig die gebeure ook al is, jy weet. As ons nie die universiteite hierdie jaar kan stabiliseer nie, dan gaan ons volgende jaar met 'n groter probleem sit. Ons gaan nie studente kan inskryf nie. It can be a long-term problem. And the regulatory environment for private universities, you can have billions of rand. It is so difficult to establish private universities. Much easier to establish a private university, for example, in Zambia than in South Africa. The regulatory environment is very, very difficult. So ek dink ons sit met ongelukkig gaan ons met dit is 'n probleem wat nie gou gaan oplos nie. Ek dink die probleem was toe die onrus vroeër plaasgevind het, is daar wel dit het 'n aanloop, nee, dit het 'n aanloop die universiteit is vir jare onderbefonds, die beursskemas is nie goed bestuur nie en so aan, maar toe dit vroeër begin het, soos Adam Habib gesê het, after 18 months and about 1 billion rands of damage, there was no single successful prosecution, jy weet. So ons het die ding gelos in die begin, toe daai vuurtjie klein was, en nou het hy in sekere opsigte weg of veldbrand geword. Ek dink in baie gevalle kan mens dit nog stop. Ek dink byvoorbeeld by tikkies kan jy dit nog omdraai, dink by wits gaan dit moeiliker wees. Maar dit is iets wat 'n langtermyn uitwerking gaan hê, en die grootste skade is nie daai gebou wat gebrand is nie. Die grootste skade is in die studente, in die skoolkinders en in die dosente se koppe. En ek dink ons gaan 'n breinrein kry, mens hoor dat oral by die universiteite.
En dan
Iemand het gesê, before 94 we had discipline, but we had no democracy. After 94 we had democracy but no discipline. We need both. We need discipline and democracy. And what I'm concerned about is that the children, the youth, think they can get away with it being undisciplined. Discipline is one of the key factors for success of any person, even if it's self-discipline. And we should get discipline back in an orderly fashion. Ek sê nie jy moet geskiet nie. As die polisieman van vrou, hoekom het jy die ou nie met 'n rubberkoel geskiet nie? Sy het nie met 'n rubberklip gegooi nie. Maar
die tennisbaan.
Ons moet hulle, daar moet geordende dissipline wees op 'n dat mense moet verstaan dat afbrand word nie, jy word nie daardeur bevoordeel, jy word benadeel. En dit bekommer my werklik waar, dat kinders en jong mense dink, hulle kan heeltemal wegkom, maar niemand word vervolg nie, en as hy aangehou word, dan brand hulle meer af om daardie ou nog los te kry. Maar ek sien professor Koornhof is hier, ek wens so sy kon na vore kom, want ek dink, sy sal vir ons 'n paar lesse kan leer, wat hulle geleer het hier in Tuks die laaste tyd.
Just I'm going to, after this, give everybody a chance for some closing remarks and some summary points. But net Christo van jou, on your side.
Okay, and this is in terms of this issue of universities. I'm trying to determine why are these students so angry. Jy weet, iemand het nou dit dan gesê as gevolg van die droogte, jy weet. Nou ja, dit maak my bang, want nou is ek te bang om na die boere op die plase te gaan, jy weet, hulle raak sommer kwaad as hulle my ook sien. But where does this anger come from? You know, and how can we turn this anger into something much more creative? There's an anger and bitterness, and it easily turns into violence. Just like it. Kyk, ons het op die plaas, daar wat ek groot geraak het, lekker klip gegooi en kleilert gespeel. Maar ek het nog nooit gesien hoe 'n klomp studente so vinnig kan klip gooi nie. Jy weet, en lyk my hulle gooi nog raak ook. So, daar's iets diepers wat hierdie hele ding dryf. Ek het gestaan getweet, ek het gesê, maar, jy weet, this is unacceptable that a small group of people, they are keeping the entire country hostage. Right? How can we allow this? But somehow, maybe my analysis is too superficial. We need somebody to really investigate what's happening in the minds of those people and where does that anger come from and how can we redirect the anger.
Before I come to closing statements, just Christo, your view. We talk about entrepreneurship as being part of the solution. Now, I think sometimes we broaden the concept that everybody should be an entrepreneur. Perhaps everybody does not want to be an entrepreneur, but let's rather focus on how do we create the mind shift of being an entrepreneur? Because it's a way of looking at things. It's a way of analyzing things. It's almost, the Afrikaanse woord is ingesteldheid. It's an attitude. Entrepreneurship is an attitude that has ingredients of the willingness to take risk, the seeing of opportunity, to act on it. How do we create that mindset?
Remember, there's always three sectors in the economy. One, your formal economy. And formal economy is struggling under a plethora of legislation, just to take the economy forward. Then there's your state sector, and daar wil ek nie ver gaan nie, want daar sit 'n groot probleem. But then there's an informal sector. This country is blessed by a very, very vibrant informal sector. But we treat the informal sector like if something, something very miserable. Ons wil dit nie naby ons hê nie. You go to any town, especially near the taxi ranks, near the station. Daai stomme informele mense en handelaars moet onder die mees vieslikste omstandighede besig bedryf. So we need to turn that around. We need to go back to the old market model to create a vibrant market space, attractive market space. We need to create pull factors. Like if a ShopRite opens up or a Pick n Pay, dan sê my vrou, kom ons gaan. Dan vra ek, hoekom moet ons gaan? Dan sê sy, maar die advertensie lyk so wonderlik, jy weet. Dan sê ek, ja, maar gaan ons net kyk. En daar is waar die gesprek daar eindig, jy weet. So how do we create these pull factors? Create local markets. And I think municipalities have a massive opportunity to create these local markets. Secondly, we need to free up the entire formal economy so that more what I would call value adding can take place within the formal sector. But I think the most important thing is we need to prioritize the production sectors in this country. En al beteken dit, jy weet, ons moet 'n klomp goed begin afskaal, bureaukratiese rompslomp en red tape begin van ons slaag raak, sodat daai produksiesektor weer vir ons kan werk, dan moet ons dit doen. Daar's ongelooflike geleenthede wat daarin opgesluit lê.
A few closing remarks from you.
Somebody have asked Mao Zedong in about 1970, what does he think about the effects of the French Revolution, 200 years earlier? And Mao's answer was, it's too early to tell. Now, what I mean by that is what happened in the French Revolution, as in many other revolutions, they've changed everything. En dat tot die maande se name verander en goeie goed ook, soos die matriekstelsel. Maar in die maand Thermidor, is nou die nuwe maand, op die 6de van Thermidor, toe is Robespierre onthoof. En dit het so skok op die Franse siege meegebring, dat die vader van die revolusie is eintlik nou dood, dat die pendling het weer begin terugswaai na normaliteit toe. 'n Ander normaal, maar weer begin terugswaai na normaliteit toe. En die slegte ding waaroor ons almal bekommerd in Suid-Afrika nou, die politieke leierskap, al die wat ons hieroor praat, vir my is die een positiewe, dat partykeer wat nodig is vir goeie ding om te gebeur, is slegte dinge. In ander lande gebeur dit dat slegte regering is die oorsaak hoekom goeie regering dan weer verkies word, of beter regering. So, ek dink dat die kombinasie van alles wat die skoolstelsel, die universiteitskrisis, die politieke krisis, die moontlike afgradering en so aan, is, alhoewel ek baie jammer is daaroor, is miskien dit wat nodig is vir wat die staatkundiges die Thermidor effect noem, vir daai pendulum om weer na 'n normaal terug te swaai.
Was Nene se afdanking, dit wil sê, deel van die katalysator en dalk in die geskiedenis 'n goeie ding?
Ek dink so, maar nou weer eens, ek weet Talleyrand het gesê dat die Franse koningshuis het niks vergeet nie en hulle het niks onthou nie. En dit bekommer my dat meneer Zuma het niks vergeet nie en hy het ook niks onthou nie.
En jou
Ulrich Joubert, my vriend wat daar agter sit, die ekonoom, het na die munisipale verkiesing geskryf, hy hoop hierdie nuwe besems gaan so skoon vee, dat hulle met mekaar gaan kompeteer om entrepreneurs te trek. Nou, ek wil vir die Sakekamer vra, julle moet teruggaan, selfs daar waar die ANC regeer. En julle moet aan daai burgemeesters en munisipale bestuurders gaan voorstelle maak, hoe hulle dorp of stad kan regeer, om entrepreneurs te trek. Deur skoon regering, deur openlike administrasie, deur oop tenderstelsels. Hulle moet eintlik met mekaar kompeteer om nywerhaars en handelaars te trek. Attitude. Die burgemeester en die munisipale bestuurder moet vir sy amptenare sê, as hierdie entrepreneur kom, wat wil grond koop, of wat 'n handelslisensie vir aansoek doen, of wat aansoek doen vir 'n herzonering, dan moet die antwoord in beginsel ja wees, tensy jy 'n baie goeie rede het hoekom dit nie is. Jy moet 'n attitude change hê, that if you ask for something, you will get it, unless there is very compelling reasons for it to be no. En as jy daai attitude change het, van die burgemeester, die munisipale bestuurder en sy amptenare, dan gaan jy dalk mense trek na jou dorp toe.
Die attitude change kom baie naby aan wat Flip gepraat het van die markplein van idees. Moet plaaslike sakekamers baie meer uitgesproke wees of 'n baie groter rol speel op die markplein van idees?
Ja, hulle moet waghonde wees, nie skoothonde nie.
Waghonde nie skoothonde nie.
Dis reg.
Ja,
Maar nog steeds honde.
you know what? Within this hall, I've traveled the length and breadth of this country when I worked for the AHI and now for AgriSA. We sit with some of the most creative and top-class leaders. Ek en my vorige president Carolina het gereis, was afbeen geweest. Ek het op 'n rolstoel gestoel, maar ons gesê ons gaan besoek aflê. Newcastle, waar is Flippy daar van die Sondagsrivier Vallei? Hierdie mense, hier sit in hierdie saal, mense met die ongelooflikste dryfkrag, mense wat ongelooflike verandering teweeggebring het, en mense wat besef, jy kan nie meer, jy weet, op 'n geïsoleerde wyse hierdie goedes doen nie. They play a leading role, they pull in your black business people, they pull in your white business people, your small scale business, waar is Vorster, wat sy naam, Rheede, nee? They have now created a business chamber. On that business chamber, you sit with informal business, formal business, and a whole range of stakeholders. In other words, they are no longer just representing the 10% of the business members who are members of that business chamber. They are representing the economy of the entire town and the entire region. Die ouens wat dit reg kry hier in hierdie saal, doen ongelooflike baanbrekers werk binne in daai dorpe, en dit gaan goed.
Ons het so 3 minute oor. Een vraag aan elkeen van julle selfe vraag. As ons vanaand by die diner is en meneer Zuma daag op en hy sê man, kom ons gesels gou vir 2 minute. Wat sal jou advies of vraag of boodskap aan hom wees? Ek kan dit anders omstel. As hy vir jou sê jy kan môre vir die dag Suid-Afrika regeer. Wat sal jou kernboodskap wees? Len, jou punt.
Wel, ek sê vir hom sê, ek bly is nie môre daar nie, dat ek die job beter kan doen. Maar ek sou weer 'n kompas kry, want hy voel vir my soos 'n man sonder 'n kompas. Hy het nie 'n morele kompas wat hom dryf nie. En as jy nie heel bo iemand het met 'n morele kompas wat mense voor agting het,
Dan sluit jy 'n visie in en was die nasionale ontwikkelingsplan nie gepoog om dit te wees nie.
ja, dis 'n goeie plan wat jy Trevor Manuel opgestel is, maar hy word nie uitgevoer nie. Hy het 'n onrealistiese groei van 5% wat ons nie het nie. Hoe kon ons daarby uitkom? Maar dit gaan nie daaroor nie. Dit gaan daaroor dat die mense moet vir jou agting hê. Hulle moet wees soos Mandela was. Jy hoef nie met hom saam te stem nie, maar jy het vir hom agting. Want hy's 'n man met 'n morele kompas wat ons huidige president nie
Jy
het.
het nie 'n flip.
Meneer Zuma, ek sal vir hom sê dat hy regeer die land deur sy aanstellings en nie deur die land se instellings nie. En ek sal vir hom vra om aan landsbelang te bedank.
Landsbelang te bedank en meer te fokus op die instellings wat ons het en dit sterker te maak.
Ja.
Ten slotte,
Ja, ek sal seker maar in 'n hel gaan as ek hom sien, jy weet. Ja. When I was at the AHI and now with AgriSA, we continuously engage with President Zuma, with cabinet ministers, all of them. And my problem is they sit and listen to us and they smile at us and they embrace us and they can kiss us, they will do that as well.
Nothing happens.
You know, when you walk out there, then you know, it's almost like it was soos 'n Afrikaanse water op 'n eensiddig. So I don't trust them and I won't even bother to waste my time with them. I'm saying the future of this country sits here. Hier as besigheidsmense en as leiers, gemeenskapsleiers, you have the power in your hands, not due to political affiliations, but due to your inner consciousness and your inner ability to make a difference. En as ons hierdie mense aan die gang kry, of hulle die geleentheid gee, en hulle ondersteun, en dis wat die AHI en AgriSA en solidariteit behoort te doen is, kom maar ons steun elke leier waar ook al hulle is, of hulle swart wat op bruin is, because this country depends on servant leadership.
baie dankie. Dankie Christo, dankie Len, baie dankie Flip. Dankie vir die deelname. Hier steek vir julle elkeen, so seker of haar name op is nie, maar daar's baie dankie.
Theo, baie dankie aan jou ook. Another
Dankie.
excellent panel conversation. Baie dankie.
Baie dankie.
I am standing between you and lunch, so I will be brief. Please remember to register. Registreer asseblief as jy 'n stemgeregte is vanmiddag by die AHI Algemene Jaarvergadering, AHV. Asseblief. En dan wil ek gou-gou vra of Martie Janse van Rensburg. Ek het haar gesien vroeër. Waar is sy? Martie, 30 sekondes. Sê gou vir ons, hoekom het jy vir die burgemeester gisterand 10 fietsse geskenk en nooit die ander mense om dieselfde te doen?
I believe in community policing, and I think it's a very good initiative from the mayor to embrace this initiative, because it's for our own safety as communities, also to add value to his mission. And also I urge all other companies maybe to double me up on this.
Daai fenomenale paar, het is fantasties, maar hulle is verward, want hulle is van Ekurhuleni en hulle skenk fietsse vir Pretoria, Tshwane. So baie dankie nogmaals. Hulle het 10 fietsse geskenk gisterand op die burgemeester se uitnodiging. Ek het hom na die tyd gevra wat kos 'n fiets. En met die regte handskoene verval en helmet, het hy vir my antwoord gegee van R1200. So as jy enige belang het by 'n nuwe inisiatief van die grond af help kry, dan klink R1200 vir my nie soveel ger baie nie. So can I appeal to you? I am not from Pretoria anymore, damn it, but I still support the Blue Bulls. But I certainly personally intend to take up Martie's challenge and support this initiative. We are in Pretoria, why don't, or Tshwane, or wherever we are, in Pretoria, Tshwane, why don't we support it? So consider that. I think you can talk to anybody and we'll make sure that it goes through. Martie, can we make you the point person for other people who want to support? Count me in for 5 as well, please. I can't match your 10, but come on, guys, we can get to... He's only looking for 1,000. Huh? Yeah, so we're at 15 and counting. Baie dankie, middagete. Vroue krag, and what is all that stuff? So guys, we will comfortably stick to the program from here on. Mevrou die visie-president van something is buite orde. The panel can come join us in front if you're ready. What we will do is we'll obviously start at 1 o'clock, and then we will give you your 45 minutes, perhaps 50. Shall we negotiate 50 minutes? So at 10 to 2, we'll have a sort of a handover. Everybody happy with that? I will not disclose yet, but I am aware of another 10 bicycle sponsorships. So I'm aware of 25. We'll talk a little bit later about that again. I'm not sure, actually, I gave you the correct information about the 1,200 Rand, whether it's a bicycle or whether it's an outfit. But I think let's think of units of 1,200, and in the end, if we give the municipality or the town 30,000 Rand, we'll know we've made a significant contribution. So please consider supporting the donation project. We'll talk about that later again. Come on, guys, let's get going. Welcome back, everybody. I thought it was a spectacular lunch, and just when I thought it was far too much, I discovered the pudding table. Huh?
Ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Goedemiddag, dames en heren. Baie dankie dat jy teruggekom het. We're going to be chatting about entrepreneurship, the challenges and some of the solutions this afternoon. There's nothing like thinking on your feet in terms of entrepreneurship. So we unfortunately at the last moment had one of our speakers who's, or panelists who has a crisis. So we kind of thought on our feet, and with a little bit of kindness and help from Dr. Ernst, we got 1 or 2 volunteers. So you won't have their CVs on your program with you. The CVs you do have is of Ben Daisel and Machapa Paweng, is it?
Paweng.
Paweng, okay, there we go. And then the guys that have joined us voluntarily or otherwise, Cliff Claassen and De Villiers Olivier. If I may ask you just to give a little bit of your CV, please, because it was a bit too much for me to write down.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Cliff, and my surname is Claassen, which is Claassen, but with 1 A and double S-E-N. I am the owner and the CEO of a petrochemical company based in Cape Town. We trade or import refined oils. My whole life has been a career post-university has been in the oil industry. So for my sins, I also chair the African Oil Lubricants Conference, which will, next week we have our meeting. But just a little bit of background to myself is that I am a chemistry graduate, and I'm also an economics graduate. So for my sins, I'm a little bit technical and also a little bit commercial. And I've spent about 35 years in the oil industry, of which about 23 years of that I worked for one of the international oil companies. And I think I'll leave it at that. Maybe later on with some questions you will see a little bit more about of me and learn a bit more of my experience. Thank you.
So thank you, Ken. My name is De Villiers Olivier. Is it working? I currently do business development for the Job Club. We focus on enterprise, supplier skills, socio-economic development initiatives. And again, entrepreneurship is close to my heart. I've been in mentorship for quite a few years, and I think being the youngest on the panel, I'm sure.
Careful now.
My CV is a bit shorter, but perhaps I can bring a different viewpoint, you know, from a youth side as well, looking at entrepreneurship and the challenges and the possible solutions that we face within that.
Okay, for everyone who was lucky enough to be here through this morning's sessions, we heard a lot of mention about fees must fall, the youth, etc., and the challenges faced there. If I may ask you to please send in as many questions as you can, because the 2 sessions prior to us was such an active follow that we really need to try and spice up our side of things. So please bring the questions coming in. The question of the youth, the frustration that the students show, fees must fall, etc. And there's a question about, well, even if fees did fall, and even if people got educated, but what if after they leave schooling, there still are no more or no jobs to absorb these young people into the system? And I think a lot of emphasis is placed on entrepreneurship. And it's not just a South African thing. We see what came out of the World Economic Forum, Davos, in February this year, is that the prediction is 5.2 million jobs are going to be lost globally due to disruption in technology, etc. So entrepreneurs, who are they? What do they look like? How do we identify them? Machapa, would you care to perhaps give us some insights from your perspective?
You started first by saying that even if fees do fall, is that going to be able to help us in terms of creating entrepreneurs? Probably the right answer is that maybe not. Because today's entrepreneur is the kind of entrepreneur that you are able to develop, the kind of entrepreneur who is able to learn. And if we don't do that, the type of entrepreneurs that we'll be creating are the type of entrepreneurs that we see perhaps in your Thailand, that only sells on the road, side of the roads, but that's not true entrepreneurship. I also have to say that I am grateful for the fact that I was here since the political landscape in debate. I also listened to the ones that came on the socioeconomic. And why I'm saying that is because true entrepreneurship does not only also look at the emerging entrepreneurs. We're talking about inclusive growth, inclusive economic development. In doing that, what we then need to do is to then develop it at beginner, at intermediate, at established. And together when we do that, that is when we're creating sustainable entrepreneurship. Not only emerging markets, not only in agriculture where we're only looking at small scale. I'm fortunate I paid with interest because I'm also in agriculture. And I'm a woman entrepreneur in agriculture 3 years. Before that, I just had an interest in what we call urban farming. And the gentleman who was here before me stipulated that we don't even have support from government. It is true. Yeah. Even that the black women farmers or black farmers, we don't have that. But then I guess we need to be asking questions together in this forum. How do we then work together so that we are exemplary to what the government then needs to learn in creating real entrepreneurship?
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Well, I asked the question, or have asked the question quite a few times of myself as to, what is an entrepreneur? We heard earlier that someone who takes risks, someone who's got an attitude of a never die attitude. Earlier there was a lot of discussion around the challenges that we face as a country, as an economy. And then the entrepreneur is still someone who, in amongst this whole picture, has still got enough chutzpah in a way to stand up and say, I'm going to make it work. So, Ben, if I may ask, on your side of things, do you know, perhaps in terms of identifying or a suggestion, what would one do to encourage more entrepreneurship in the country?
To be quite honest, that's one of the questions I hope that wouldn't be posed. I sometimes find myself in a battle emotionally to understand exactly what is an entrepreneur. Sometimes it's a swear word, sometimes it's confused with a tenderpreneur. So I don't exactly know what government means where they say we need to create more entrepreneurs, and when are you entrepreneur, when are you not? Is Bill Gates still an entrepreneur? I'm not sure. It's a huge debate. The fact of the matter is, I think entrepreneurs are born. I don't think they're created. It's a passion. It's in your blood. It's around your dinner table. It's in your bed. It's Unfortunately or unfortunately, entrepreneurship or lasting entrepreneurship is about money. Making money. And if it's not sustainable, you cannot regard yourself as a successful entrepreneur. So, within those parameters, it's very difficult to say what can government really do to generate more opportunities. I firmly believe one of the previous speakers said that government